I never thought a single evening could change the way I see myself, or the way I feel about someone I had known for so long. My name is Emily, and this is the story of how something unexpected happened between me and someone I never imagined would become such an important part of my life. It's not a story about recklessness, though it might sound like it. It's a story about how emotions build in the quietest of places until they can no longer be ignored. It all started on a cool autumn evening when I visited my best friend, Claire. She had invited me over because she had been feeling under the weather and wanted some company. I wasn't planning on staying late, but as life usually goes, plans don't always stick. I knew her older brother, Ryan, would be around because he was staying with her for a few months while he sorted out some personal things. I hadn't seen Ryan in years. We grew up in the same small town, and back then, he was the quiet, shy type, the one who always sat at the edge of a room, never drawing too much attention to himself. But when he opened the door that night, I barely recognized him. He had grown up, in every possible sense. "Emily," he said with a smile that seemed to carry a warmth I wasn't expecting. "Long time, huh?" I smiled back, trying not to let my surprise show. "Yeah, a very long time. You look different." He laughed lightly. "That's what happens when 10 years pass." I walked inside, and Claire came out of the kitchen with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She looked miserable, sniffling from a cold, so I hugged her and spent some time catching up. The three of us sat together for a while, chatting, until Claire excused herself to rest. She told me not to leave just yet, that she wanted me around in case she needed something. Ryan and I ended up in the living room, just the two of us. The TV was on, but neither of us was paying much attention to it. We talked about everything that had happened in our lives since high school, and I found myself surprised by how easy it was to talk to him. He wasn't the shy boy I remembered. He had this calm confidence about him now, this way of listening to me like what I said mattered. At some point, a thunderstorm rolled in. The rain hit hard against the windows, and the power flickered. The sudden chill in the room made me hug myself as goosebumps formed along my arms. "You cold?" Ryan asked, watching me from the other end of the couch. "A little," I admitted, trying to shrug it off. He stood up and disappeared down the hallway. When he came back, he had a thick blanket. He sat down closer to me than before, spreading the blanket over both of us. It wasn't strange, or at least it didn't feel that way. It felt natural, like this was how it was supposed to be. For a while, we sat there quietly, the sound of rain and distant thunder filling the space between us. It wasn't awkward silence. It was the kind that made me feel safe, like we were both comfortable just being there. But then, something changed. I don't know if it was the way the storm outside seemed to shrink the world into just that small living room, or the way his arm brushed against mine under the blanket, but suddenly I was very aware of how close he was. "You know," he said after a moment, "I never thought I'd get the chance to talk to you like this again. Back then, I could barely say 2 words to you without feeling like an idiot." I looked at him, surprised. "You? Shy? I don't believe that." He smiled, shaking his head. "I was. You just never noticed." Something about the way he said that made my heart skip. I laughed softly, trying to break whatever strange tension was building in the air. "Well, you're definitely different now." He didn't say anything for a moment. His eyes were on me, steady and thoughtful, like he was trying to figure something out. The thunder cracked loudly outside, and I jumped a little. Without thinking, he put his arm around me, pulling me closer to him. It was instinctive, protective even. I could feel the warmth of his body against mine, the way his hand rested gently on my arm as if he didn't want to startle me. I should have pulled away. I should have said something casual, made a joke to lighten the moment. But I didn't. I let myself stay there, my head resting against his shoulder. "You okay?" he asked softly. "Yeah," I whispered, though my heart was beating so fast I wasn't sure he couldn't hear it. The closeness felt different. Safe, but intense. I tilted my head slightly to look at him, and for a second, our faces were only inches apart. I could see every detail of his expression, the way his eyes seemed to search mine for something I couldn't name. I don't know why I didn't move. Maybe part of me didn't want to. He hesitated, his hand tightening just slightly on my arm, pulling me a little closer. And that was when I realized what was happening. I let my legs shift a little on the couch, moving slightly to face him, and the blanket slipped a bit, pooling around us. My legs brushed against his, and for some reason, I didn't move them away. It wasn't about anything physical. It was about trust. In that moment, I trusted him with every part of me. He whispered, so softly I almost didn't hear it over the rain. Emily. The sound of my name in his voice sent a shiver through me. And instead of pulling away, I stayed there. For a long time, we just sat like that, both of us silent, the weight of the moment sinking in. Finally, I said quietly, Ryan, this feels strange. I know, he admitted, his voice low. But it feels right too. Doesn't it? I couldn't argue with that.
I don't know how long we stayed like that.
It could have been minutes, or maybe an hour. All I know is that the rain eventually slowed, and the world outside the window went quiet again. When I finally stood to leave that night, there was a look on his face I'll never forget. It was a mix of longing and restraint, like he wanted to say something but knew it wasn't the right time. I walked out of the house with my heart heavier and lighter at the same time. That night replayed in my head for weeks afterward. I thought about the way he had pulled me close, the way he hadn't rushed anything, how it wasn't about anything except being there in that moment. In the days that followed, we talked more. At first, just texts, then phone calls. And eventually, he asked if I wanted to come over again. I hesitated, but I knew I wanted to. When I arrived, Claire wasn't home. It was just Ryan and me. We talked again, this time more openly, more honestly. He told me about the struggles he'd been going through, the things that had made him move back home for a while. I told him about the loneliness I'd been feeling lately, how life sometimes feels like it's moving without me. And somewhere in the middle of that conversation, he reached out, touched my hand, and I didn't pull away. There wasn't a storm this time. No thunder or lightning. Just two people who had been dancing around something for too long. He pulled me closer again, just like before, and I let him. This time, when my legs shifted and brushed against his, it wasn't by accident. What happened after wasn't dramatic or wild. It was simple. I rested my forehead against his chest and let myself breathe. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be.